What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Hate to Pile On. Another week has gone. Some crazy football play has happened as well. And let's dive into it. First and foremost, I'm CJ. This is Jonathan over here. And let's get some business underway first and foremost. We're going to keep preaching it until we get to it. Follow us here on Twitch and also on the YouTube page at CJT Creation Box on YouTube and Twitch, twitch.tv/HATE2PYLON. Tell a friend, share the stream, let people know, tell people to watch it, follow us, subscribe to us, and help us become affiliates. We want to start the year off strong and build this brand. We have a lot of really awesome stuff going for the show coming to next year. We're going to really do some really fun stuff for you guys. NBA is coming up pretty soon, so we're going to figure out some NBA coverage. Wrestling Wednesday is coming out this week. Might be a little late on Wednesday. We'll see. But that video, I got 2 videos for that shot for you guys, so that's going to be really exciting. But yeah, a lot of great stuff for Hate to Pile On. So definitely, I want you guys to watch it and subscribe to the channel and get, let us know, what you guys think as well. But that's the business done, out of the way. Did you have a good weekend, Jonathan?
I did have a pretty good weekend. What about you, CJ?
My weekend was fun. It was a fun weekend, but it wasn't a good weekend if my last name was Newton. And we're gonna go straight into primetime pylon with the first game, the Patriots versus the Los Angeles Rams, where the Patriots offense did not get off. I'm pretty sure it was in Los Angeles. They did not get off the plane because only putting up 3 points. This is very similar to the Super Bowl game where it switched because the Rams only scored 3 points. So this is kind of a little bit of a revenge game for the Rams. Big win for them, going to 9-4, and the New England Patriots. I believe this loss completely took them out of the playoff contention, if I'm not mistaken. But the AFC is a very stacked division. I mean, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but there could possibly be 3 teams in one particular division possibly coming out of the AFC, excuse me. But notable stat lines for this first game. Cam Newton, 9 for 16, 119 yards and an interception. Not good, not ideal. For the Rams, Jared Goff, 16 for 25, 127 for 1 touchdown as well. Both quarterbacks not doing a lot. The running game, big for Los Angeles Rams this game. 29 carries, 171 yards, and that is Cam Akers. Pretty good production right there for you, 5.9 yards a carry. And let's see. Let's see what our boy did. Aaron Donald, 1.5 sacks and a tackle for loss. So not a bad game. Pretty much the Rams controlled this game, dominated this game, and played well. Yeah, so Jonathan, what you thought about this game? What do you think? These 2 teams.
I think Cam Newton needs help. This offense is devoid of talent. And it's hard for any quarterback to make plays with receivers. When your top 3 receivers are N'Keal Harry, Damiere Byrd, and Jacoby Myers. They have no tight ends to speak of. Devin Asiasi, the rookie, I think this was his first game since like week 4. He was on injured reserve. He was activated and played. I had 1 target, no catches. And that was the only target for tight ends because the rest of them stink. The running backs, the running game wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good. And with this Patriots team, the running game has to perform well for them to win, and it did not. Damian Harris had 11 carries for 50 yards for an average of 4.5 yards per carry. Not bad, but because they were down so much, they couldn't lean on that running game to win. The Rams just outplayed him all three phases. 6 sacks of Cam Newton, 1.5 by Aaron Donald, as you mentioned. 2 by Michael Brockers. The pick 6 obviously didn't help. 79-yard return by Kenny Young for a touchdown. Yeah, just a bad game from the Patriots. The defense stinks. The offense stinks. The team stinks. And it's hard to win with a stinky team.
Very true. Quick question before we move on to the next game.
What's up?
Do you think, you can give it a yes or no answer, you don't have to go into it right now. Does New England re-sign Cam Newton?
Yes.
Interesting. I say no, and I think they go younger, but we'll see. I mean, it is tough to judge Cam Newton based off what he's had, like with the toys he's had at his disposal. It's definitely, he hasn't been. I would say he hasn't had the fair shake for sure, but can we compare the talent at wide receiver from the last 2 years from the Patriots with Cam versus Tom?
No.
The amount of talent, both quarterbacks
No.
had.
Edelman played the last 2 years and played like 3 games this year.
True.
And when he was playing with a bone-on-bone injury in his knee, so he was at like 60% of what he was. So no, this is nothing like what Tom Brady had. Plus, Tom Brady had a much better offensive line and a significantly better defense.
That's true. That is, they have a lot of opt-out players. So I think this team can definitely get a lot better fast.
They have like 3 starters back on the defense from last year between free agency and opt-outs.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens next year. Going into Sunday Night Football, we have a matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were undefeated just a couple of weeks ago, taking on the Buffalo Bills, who this was the biggest, I wouldn't say the biggest test, but it's definitely the latest test for the Buffalo Bills, and to the test that they need to answer to whether or not is this team for real or not. The Buffalo Bills picked up the victory 26-15, improving to 10-3, and the Pittsburgh Steelers losing 2 straight, going down to 11-2. Notable stat lines here: Ben Roethlisberger, 21 for 37, 187 yards, 2 tutties, 2 interceptions. No run game to really speak of there. Josh Allen, 24 for 43, 288 yards, 2 tutties, 1 pick. Not too much of a running game. Zach Moss, 13 carries for 43 yards, and Devin Singletary, 7 carries for 32 yards. Stephon Diggs, big game, doing big things. 10 catches, 130 yards, and a tutty on 14 targets. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Buffalo answering the call, really shutting down this offense that really has kind of been struggling to kind of find his identity. And, well, I would say find his identity, but with the lack of running game, they haven't been the same kind of offense. So, Jonathan, I'm going to ask you this. Are you impressed with this Buffalo Bills team? Or do you think that the Pittsburgh Steelers is not all what we think it is?
I think it's a little bit of both. I was saying all along, even when they were undefeated, Pittsburgh felt like frauds, even though they were winning. So obviously I had no evidence to back it up. Now that they've lost 2 in a row and they've kind of been exploited a little bit, it's easier to see that. James Conner, despite a couple big games earlier in the year, is not what he was last year. This receiving core, I don't know what to make of it. They're hit and miss. They'll have some big games, some bad games. I really don't know who their number 1 receiver is. It should be Deontay Johnson because he's their best receiver at getting open, but he's also their worst receiver at catching the ball. So he got benched in this game, even though he's literally the best player they have at getting open in the passing game. And then once they started trailing, they had no choice but to put him back in. They were down 7-23. Juju, when he was playing with Antonio Brown, people overrated him because he feasted on number 2 corners and single coverage most of the year because Antonio Brown commanded those double teams and safety help over the top. And without him playing across from a dynamic talent like that, he's shown that he's not as talented as what we thought. Originally, he's still a good player, but he's not a number 1 wide receiver. The Steelers are hoping Chase Claypool can turn into that. He hasn't yet. Deontay Johnson's probably the best they have at achieving that at this point, but as I said, he can't catch, so it's kind of hard to do. But yeah, the Bills, I mean, they're a good team. Their defense has been lights out for the last 3 years at least. I want to say 4, though. It's been very tough. They probably have the best safety tandem in the league in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. They have Tre'Davious White at corner. Let's see. The defensive line, kind of a down year for them this year. They lost Shaq Lawson. They brought in Mario Addison. Jerry Hughes has been there for a while. Star Latulele opted out because of COVID. The linebackers are young, athletic, really good. Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano.
Tremaine Edmonds is a beast.
Speaking of Trey Edmonds, this was a good battle of the brothers game. His brother Terrell Edmonds is a safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and their third brother, Trey Edmonds, is a running back who didn't play in this game. He plays for the Steelers, but I believe he's on injured reserve currently.
Good bloodline.
Yeah.
Going back real quick, I've never really been a big fan of Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he has been kind of a fraud. He had good numbers in those previous Pittsburgh Steelers offenses, but really he hasn't really showed to be a dominant number 1 in the way people kind of praise him. Yes, he's still young. I think he's only 24 years old. He is still young and he's entering free agency, and I've seen a lot of talk with the Washington fan base wanting Juju with our team, which, I mean, he could do well paired with Terry McLaurin. I just don't see it. I don't see especially if he's going to be commanding big money, I don't see the reward for him. He just doesn't produce enough for me in my eyes. If I'm going to pay a wide receiver big bucks, I'm paying Allen Robinson in this free agency. He deserves it. He has been literally the go-to receiver for Nick Foles, Mitchell Trubisky, all the above in Chicago, and handled it very well and has been staying healthy. He was very dominant with Blake Bortles as quarterback in Jacksonville a few years ago. He kind of dropped off in the face of the plane. I think he tore his ACL one year, if I'm not mistaken. And he came back and bounced back with Chicago, which has been a great steal for them. Will he leave Chicago next year? Let's hope this year. Let's hope so, because he will never see relevancy if he stays in Chicago, because that team absolutely stinks. But yeah, I don't see the big hoop up with Juju Smith-Schuster. So
that's fair.
Yeah. So speaking of fair, maybe spectacular, Baltimore versus Cleveland. Monday Night Football game that really, I would say, defied a lot of odds. I didn't expect this game to be such high scoring.
I don't think anyone did.
Cleveland, I had a lot of opportunities to win this game. Definitely a costly turnover for Baker Mayfield. Even though he did throw for 3 tutties, If he didn't have that interception in so far in his own territory, I don't think this game would have been as close. That's something that he has to improve on. He's been playing better these last couple of weeks. The Baltimore Ravens picked up the victory with the last second field goal to beat Cleveland 47-42. And did he get a safety at the end of the game?
They sure did. And
just...
plenty of people were pissed about it because the line was Baltimore by 3, which is what they were winning by. And then the safety put it to a 5-point lead for them. So they won 47-42, and Baltimore hit the over by themselves. The over-under was 46, and Baltimore had 47 by themselves. So, yeah, nobody expected this game to be this high scoring.
Not at all.
Certainly not Vegas.
Notable stats for the Ravens. You have Lamar Jackson, 11 for 17, 163 yards, 1 tutty, and 1 shit. Lamar Jackson also had 9 carries, 124 yards, and 2 tutties, along with J.K. Dobbins, 13 carries, 53 yards, and Gus Edwards, 7 carries, 49 yards, and 2 tutties himself. Going to Cleveland's side, we had Baker Mayfield, another impressive performance. We could not throw this interception. They would have won this game. 28 for 47, 343 yards, 2 tutties. Nick Chubb, 17 carries, 82 yards, 2 tutties. Kareem Hunt, 6 carries, 33 yards, 1 tutty. Baker Mayfield also rushed for a touchdown. And Kareem Hunt was the leading receiver with 6 catches, 77 yards, and a tutty. Another 300-yard performance from Baker Mayfield. He has to continue to do this, but he can't turn the ball over, especially in your own territory when a close game, a division game like this. They lost to Ravens about 30 earlier this year, and this was definitely a game to really show that the Cleveland Browns are serious, so it can be, contenders. But they let the Ravens win, and now opens the door for 3 teams from the AFC North to possibly make the playoffs this year. We'll see what happens. A very tough AFC. So let me ask you this question, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Do you think Baker was the better quarterback in this game? Or that's part one question, 2-part question. Or do you think Lamar Jackson is finally coming back to life?
I think Lamar is coming back to life. I still don't think he's playing at 100%. Whatever story you want to believe, whether he needed to go take a number 2 in the middle of a game or that he needed to get IVs in the middle of the game, whichever of those 2 scenarios you believe, clearly he's not at 100% if one of those scenarios needed to happen. So I believe he wasn't 100% healthy in this game and still ran for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns on 9 carries. And, he got the win, so you got to give him credit there. They did what they needed to do. Cleveland tied the game with 1 minute and 4 seconds left, and Lamar drove him down the field in 1 minute and 2 seconds for the game-winning field goal. So pretty impressive there on that last drive. And then, of course, the safety at the end put the lead even further out of the Browns' reach. But, yeah, Baker has been playing better. But to be fair, it was hard to be worse than he was earlier in the season because he was very bad. He did throw for 343 yards. He threw the ball almost 50 times, though. So, yes, he threw for 343 yards compared to 163 for Lamar. But he threw the ball 30 more times than Lamar Jackson did. So, I think to compare those straight up, they just play 2 different styles of quarterback. And the Ravens with the talent they have on their offense, they need Lamar to be a force in the running game as well as the passing game. And that's not something Baker's asked to do. I know he did contribute a rushing score in this game,
He put that
but
Jets on for that touchdown, though. He put the Jets on for sure.
also, I said that the slide with Baker Mayfield that he did on the touchdown celebration last week was the most impressive thing I've seen from him. It's still the most impressive thing I've seen from him, but number 2 is that Hail Mary attempt at the end of the first half. He threw that ball like 75, 78 yards. So he's got an arm when he can really sit back and cork it. But he's not that accurate. As you can see, his Hail Mary attempt went through the uprights. Like he threw a field goal, which is not something you want to do if you're trying to give your guys a chance to make a play on the ball. So big arm, not the most accurate.
Which I think the thing coming out of Oklahoma is his accuracy. He had like 70% completion percentage, and that's one thing hasn't been showcasing a lot. I think Baker Mayfield may be able to finesse or con a big second contract out of the Cleveland Browns if he flashes enough. Like if he shows the goods just enough to to a young deceiving boy, the Cleveland Browns. And he's like, you know what? I'll give you some money. Similar to a Blake Bortles situation to where you kind of paid him. And similar to also a Carson Wentz situation currently right now. Would you think, that's not even equal trade, Carson Wentz for Baker Mayfield, because the contract money is just too heavy with Carson Wentz contract. Maybe a Matt Ryan for Carson Wentz trade because they have equal money for contracts would be interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Is Baker Mayfield is going to be the answer. I feel like you can get really, honestly, he's a really interchangeable part for that offense. And I think, you can really input any other quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think he's the driving force behind that offense. I think it's the running game. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are both incredible running backs. The offensive line is a lot better than it gets credit for.
They do have a really good offensive line.
Yeah, so I think people are overstating Baker's importance to the offense. I mean, he has been playing, especially the last couple of games, he's been playing well this season, but he's also had some bad games. But yeah, I think their running game is the key to their success.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that three-headed rushing attack is insane. Not three-headed, two-headed rushing attack with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, two A-backs for sure on any offense in the league. So it just depends on. I think Baker's fine. So I think the thing is, so a question we got was why can't he work with OBJ well? And I think what happens with Baker is that he gets too much in his head. And I think he's one of those guys who wants to try to be like he wants to please everybody instead of playing the game to where it comes and spreading the ball around. Because I feel like with Odell being a presence of like, all right, I got to get Odell his touches. So then I have to kind of force the ball to Odell a little bit more, which you can do if Odell was your main primary target. But Cleveland does have some weapons on the offense, and if you keep spreading the ball around, I think it's just that that pressure of having a star wide receiver because you kind of have to look his way a little bit more than you should versus what the progression and the reads say you should do. I think that's why Baker doesn't play well with Odell.
I think that's part of it, trying to force it to Odell. But I think also his accuracy issues seem to show up more when he was throwing to Odell for some reason. I'm not sure why that is, but a lot of his errant throws seem to be the ones that were directed at Odell. Like I said, I'm not sure what the reason is for that. If it was a chemistry issue, they're just not on the same page, or what's going on there. Perhaps Odell needs to spend less time making commercials and more time practicing with Odell, get them on the same page, because they don't seem to be, or at least didn't seem to be when Odell was playing. Even
also,
go ahead.
Well, another interesting question is Odell is as good as we think he is, though? I mean, is he a little washed? I mean, ever since kind of going to Cleveland, he hasn't been that spectacular superstar of the league ever since that one-handed catch that just really just propelled him, to stardom. And, of course, he wanted to get out of New York, but then now it's just like, is he good? I mean, now we just know him for his, scandalous, infamous off the field stuff. Like what? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. It feels kind of like a Brady Belichick situation where we're not going to know what the answer is until these two are separated. Is Baker the problem? Is Odell the problem? We won't know until they're no longer playing together. And we can evaluate them with other players. Baker right now has been doing pretty well without Odell. So we'll see what happens with Odell when he's healthy, if he's back with the Browns, if he's going to be traded again. They'll have to weigh their options, and we'll see what they do. Because like I said, the offense has been kind of humming without him.
Yeah. Real quick, before we move on to the next game, give me a fantasy destination you would trade Odell Beckham to. Because it's pretty. I think it's highly likely that he won't be in Cleveland next year. What do you think will be a likely landing location?
For Odell Beckham?
Yeah.
How about the Saints? Back in Louisiana?
I would hate that.
I would hate that as a Panthers fan, playing against Odell Beckham.
Maybe in Tampa Bay? What they're always trying to acquire.
How much help does Tom Brady need?
Obviously a lot, because he can't do much.
I do want to shout out Perplexios. He's right. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been coming on the last two games. He's right about that. He's a late round draft crush of mine. He's a good athlete coming out of Michigan, underutilized in Michigan's offense, as is pretty much every receiver, because Michigan is where skill position players go to die under Harbaugh, because he's bad. He's like the Ron Rivera of the college ranks. He thinks a running game is going to win you championships, and it's just not the case. You need a good passing game. And they've had weapons. Last year they had DPJ, Tariq Black, Nico Collins. Who else? There's another receiver they had. Anyway, they had like 4 receivers, 3 of whom might get drafted this year. Donovan Peoples-Jones was drafted last year. Anyway, yeah, DPJ needs more targets. I'm not sold on Baker yet. He's been playing well. Yeah, go ahead.
My suggestion for this trade, Odell Beckham for Juju Smith-Schuster. I think that could be an interesting trade. I don't know how even that would be, but I think that could work. I think those two teams, because I feel like Juju could do well in Cleveland with that.
I feel like Juju's too similar to Jarvis Landry.
That's true.
He's like a younger, juiced up Jarvis Landry. But going back to my Odell to the Saints trade, There were rumors the Saints were looking to trade Michael Thomas earlier in the year after that fight he had. So maybe a Michael Thomas for Odell trade?
That would be a blockbuster deal for sure. That could work. They both have enough star power. I just don't know what kind of draft compensation that would go into that.
I don't know either. But speaking of blockbuster wide receiver trades, Kyle sent me an article from a Minnesota fan site earlier that reported that the Vikings this offseason turned down a trade offer of DeAndre Hopkins for Stephon Diggs.
What?
The Vikings turned it down.
They turned what?
Yeah.
If that's not the dumbest trade.
But I'm now irrationally upset because we could have had Deshaun throwing to Diggs instead of handing off to David Johnson.
That would have been amazing.
It would have been, yes, but it's not happening.
Diggs is cooking. Like, imagine he's cooking with Josh Allen, who's, don't get me wrong, he's a good quarterback. He's been playing well this year. But Stephon Diggs will probably have like 15 catches a game right now. And then even still with Nuke would still be balling with, I don't know, that's the thing. Nuke makes any quarterback good. What am I even talking about? Like, literally, Nuke has been playing with terrible quarterbacks all his career and still put up great numbers. So you can't tell it's not the best.
He's been playing with terrible quarterbacks his whole career until
Deshaun Watson, yes.
Thank you.
But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, that would shake up the whole look of the league right now.
The
Cardinals would stink.
Oh, for sure. I don't think they would be explosive for sure. Honestly, Cliff Kingsbury's probably going to get fired after next season. I'm calling it right now, so you can kind of mark that on your books. But we'll do more. We'll do more of like this GMing and fantasy booking later on once the season wraps up. We got some really cool things we want to do, especially going for the draft. So be on the lookout for that. We're gonna do some video game booking stuff and like GM modes and stuff like that. We'll do more of that going forward. So because we always got a bunch of like fantasy. I mean, we always kind of quick to like fantasy book different things. But let's move on to the rest of the games that we're going to talk about from our pile on picks on Thursday. We're going to Minnesota versus Tampa Bay. Minnesota losing, which I don't know why I picked Minnesota to win this game. It's just what those NFC North teams outside of the Green Bay Packers. I don't know why I picked them to win games. You never know, but I mean, Dalvin Cook is the main reason why I picked that team. Tampa Bay picked up the victory, 26-14, improving to 8-5, and the Minnesota Vikings dropped to 6-7. Notable stat line you have for this game: Kirk Cousins going for 24 for 37, 225, and 1 tutty. Dalvin Cook, 22 carries, 102 yards, and a tutty. Irv Smith, 4 catches, 60 yards, and that tutty for Kirk Cousins. On the other side, we had not Drew Brees. They feel like the same guy. Tom Brady, 15 for 23, 196, and 2 tutties, with Ronald Jones going for 18 carries, 80 yards, and a tutty. I don't know about this Buccaneers team. I really don't. I don't know. I just don't see. I don't see this Buccaneers team going very far. I don't know if they make the playoffs. Maybe they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think this team. I wouldn't be scared of this team, to be quite honest with you. You might have trepidation with this team going into the playoffs just because you don't know what kind of Buccaneers team you're going to get. Are you going to get that stout defense that we saw early on before Vita Vea, get hurt? Are we going to see that same offense, same defense going forward? I'm not sure. Tom Brady stinks. He's not as. He still has the name value. He's kind of like the Oreo cookies. No, that's disrespect because Oreos are still the GOAT. but it has that name value of like, all right, it's good, but then you wind up, it's like the general, generic brand of cookie that you thought, I thought this was Oreos. No, it's white and black cookies. Like that's what it's called. Like it's like, all right, well, this is not as good as I thought it was going to be, so this kind of stinks. What do you think about the Buccaneers' chances for playoffs this year?
I still think they have a chance at the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to make any noise in the playoffs, but right now they're in the hunt for the wild card. They're the 6th seed in the NFC. I'm about to sneeze. Oh, sorry about that. So, yeah, they're a game behind Seattle for the 5 seed. 2 games behind New Orleans, and I believe they already played New Orleans twice. But they played the Falcons twice, so 2 division games remaining. 1 game against the Lions. And New Orleans has 1 division game left against the Panthers. They play the Chiefs and the Vikings as well, so they're probably going to lose to the Chiefs. And the Vikings have been – they could upset them, especially if Taysom Hill's still quarterback. You never know what could happen. So that I could see the Saints losing 2 of their next 3 games. And that would open the door for the Bucs to win the NFC South. If they win out, I'm not saying they will, but they do play the Falcons twice, and the Falcons kind of stink. And also the Lions, who definitely stink. So it's not unreasonable for them to win out, go 11-5, and win the NFC South. But they should at least make the wild card as currently projected.
So do you think they will make a run once entered into the playoffs?
I think they could, but I'm not ready to say that they will. I think in the playoffs is where you could start to see give me 1 sec. Sorry. Is where you could start to see that veteran experience and savvy of Tom Brady and Gronk to take over, because most of these Bucs players haven't really experienced the playoffs because they just haven't been that good with Jameis. Not that was all Jameis's fault. It's just the way it is. The defense took a massive step this year. It's a better defense than any Jameis has ever played with. And the offense has not only Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, but Gronk and Antonio Brown.
Scotty Miller. He had the big tutty, baby. You can't forget Scotty Miller.
I can't forget Slotty Miller, Slot King.
That's kind of the guy that Tom Brady loves. He loves a good slot receiver, that really just tickles his fancy, to be quite honest with you. I think that's a player that he needs to exploit, especially Gronk over the middle, a slot player, get those out routes and crossing routes. I don't think he has the arm for to be able to really push the ball down the field, kind of like a Ben Roethlisberger, kind of like a Drew Brees, kind of all these quarterbacks that we grew up to love. And now it's like, hey, it's time to go off the pasture. This year, next year, let's cut this thing off. Drew Brees, let's get out of here. Tom Brady, let's get out of here. Ben Roethlisberger, let's get out of here. Let's bring some new blood in. Dwayne Haskins to Pittsburgh, confirmed. Jameis Winston to Indianapolis next year, confirmed. Get Phillip Rivers out of here. I can't believe I forgot Phillip Rivers. But
he's washed.
We need these guys. This thing is, I love these quarterbacks. We've seen them forever. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, let's get them out of here. Like, it's time to get this fresh blood in, and let's start this new wave of quarterback. There's going to be some really interesting starting jobs. Jacoby, we need that starting job in Indianapolis, but if not Indianapolis, let's get it in New England. Our boy Jameis, Jacoby, we rooting for you guys to get starting jobs this year. We are the agents of them. Also, when we see our client Trevor Lawrence, if he decides to come out this year playing for a team, hopefully that's not in New York, we're going to see some really good quarterback play coming forward. But I don't know. I think this Tampa Bay team can really be good if Jameis Winston was still here in the second year. I think either that or just someone who has enough of an arm to push the ball down the field. Because I think it's a crime. Because that's pretty much what this offense is designed to do with Bruce Arians' system. It's just a crime that they can't get that done. And, it's time to put Tom Brady out to pasture for sure.
Yep, it's chosen Josh Rosen season, baby.
I would love to see that, to be honest with you. I want to see that's the thing. I love quarterbacks who've been disrespected and has been kind of been pushed to the side. And I just want to see them grow because that's just those beautiful sports stories that you love to watch. Remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights, stuff like that where you want to root for these guys. Rocky, like one of the greatest sports movies about these underdogs, these guys who've just been disrespected. They had to overcome a lot of odds. I love it. I would love to see Josh Rosen. I would love to see Josh Rosen go back to Arizona after Cliff Kingsbury gets fired next season and carries it up. I love to
Kyler.
Yeah, but I mean, if the quarterback that you drafted specifically for this, like you got this head coach specifically for this quarterback, and this coach gets fired, what are you going to do after that? Like
you're going to keep Kyler.
Kyler's good, but he still hasn't. Kyler, I don't know. He's iffy to me. He doesn't have that killer instinct that I like to see.
He has one weapon. One.
But you can do a lot with one weapon. And
he has
the greatest weapon. It's been okay. Well, let me break down this next game real quick.
You're tripping.
Arizona versus the New York Giants. We both picked. Actually, I picked the Arizona Cardinals for this game. Like it was kind of like, what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. But Arizona did pick up the victory, 26-7, a very stout defensive performance. Shout out to Hassan Reddick, 5 sacks in this game, which is I think the most sacks. I don't know if the NFL history for a single player, but
Cardinals history.
Yeah,
I think
Cardinals
it's like
history.
1 sack short of the NFL record.
Insane. Kyler Murray, 24 for 35, 244 in the tutty, passing. He also had 13 carries for 47 yards rushing, along with Kenyon Drake, 23 carries for 80 yards and a tutty. Of course, our guy Newt, 9 catches, 136 yards, and he did the damn thing. On the Giants side of the ball, Daniel Jones, 11 for 21, 127 yards coming back. Wayne Gallman, your boy from Clemson, 12 carries for 57 yards. And Dion Lewis had 2 carries for 14 yards and a tutty. Not much for the offense aside for the Giants this week. They were building momentum, playing stout defense, but Arizona came out electric. And that's the thing. I don't know with this team. I just don't know what we're going to get. I love Kyler Murray. We love Kyler Murray. We picked Kyler Murray early on to be that.
Well, I do. You sound like you don't.
I just don't like.
You sound like a fair weather fan.
I just feel like this team could be a lot better, and it should be a lot better. And some things I've seen from Kyler over the last couple of weeks has been putting me kind of like on the fence. I can admit that. I guess he says he wasn't hurt, but he definitely was dealing with some type of injury, whether it was mental or whatever with that shoulder thing that he's had. But do you think that the Cardinals can finish strong to get a playoff push? Or the better question is, which team do you think will finish stronger to get a playoff spot? With the Giants in a neck-and-neck race with the Washington football team? Or do you think the Cardinals can still sneak a wild card berth?
I think they still could. Let's see, who do they have remaining on the schedule? They have the Eagles this week, which is a very winnable game. And then 2 division games against the 49ers and the Rams.
This is the Cardinals schedule?
Yeah.
I don't know. The Eagles team looked kind of good yesterday with Jalen Hurts making them guys hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Jalen was killing it, but the Cardinals got the mobile quarterback stopper and Isaiah Simmons, so you might not be able to scramble like that if they spy him with Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons has already beaten him once in a big game in college when Clemson beat Alabama.
We gonna run it back this year?
We might. We'll see what happens. Currently, we'll get to that later. But yeah, the Cardinals are currently a game behind Tampa Bay, who are a game behind Seattle, who are tied with the Rams. So 2 games back of the division, and they play one of those teams in the next 3 games. So if they can beat the Rams, let's see, Seattle's remaining schedule. They're 2 games up on the Cardinals right now. They play at Washington this week.
Big game.
Home against the Rams, who are first in this division right now. And then at the 49ers.
Oh, those are tough games. 49ers is not an easy win.
No, none of those are. So like I said, the Rams and Seahawks play each other. So one of those teams are going to lose. So the Cardinals will gain ground on them with that game being played.
And then plus, if they get that victory over the Seahawks, I think they'll be able to sweep that series, which will get them – I don't know if it will give them the division, but it'll definitely get them second place, which I think will solidify that wild card spot.
So, yeah, they're very capable of solidifying a wild card spot. I do trust the Bucs more than them to make a run from the wild card slot, but I could definitely see them locking one up. The Cardinals.
Yeah. So who do you like? All right, before we go to who do you like more? So Cardinals or Giants?
Cardinals.
All right, cool. All right, going into what I thought was going to be the game of the week, or was talked about being possibly a big game of the week. We had Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Miami Dolphins, and boy, oh boy, the Miami Dolphins was looking good early on. But it wasn't sustainable. Kansas City picked up the victory 33-27. Kansas City improves to 12-1 as Miami goes down to 8-5. Notable stat lines here. We have Patrick Mahomes doing not so Patrick Mahomes things this week, throwing for 3 interceptions, 2 tutties, 24 for 34 for 393. Not much of a running game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 16 carries for 32 yards, whilst Tyreek Hill had 1 carry for 32 yards and a tutty. Running game, didn't really get too much done. Travis Kelce doing Travis Kelce things in 2020, 8 catches for 136 yards and a tutty. And Tyreek Hill, 3 catches, 79 yards and a tutty. On the other side, we have the Dolphins, Tua, 28 for 48, 316 yards, 2 tutties, and an interception. Not too much of a running game. DeAndre Washington, 13 carries for 35 yards. Tua, added 6 carries, 24 yards, and a tutty himself. So 3 tutties for Tua on the day. This defense played well, and this defense played hard. They were up to the task, but the offense didn't put enough points on the board early on to really continue that momentum to drive that, especially how ferocious that defense was playing. Forcing Patrick Mahomes to throw for 3 interceptions, you have to capitalize on that or you're not going to win the game. It just sucks because I think the Dolphins are maybe a couple of big pieces away on offense to be really good, and maybe another piece on defense, maybe like another pass rusher on defense for the Dolphins. I think they could be a real legit contender. Um, maybe like I mean, Juju could maybe do well in Miami. Maybe Odell in Miami, another big city, warm weather place. Tua throwing him the rock. That would be a pretty interesting combo right there.
It would
Then
be.
you have some young assets to send in the trade, and they have first round picks. Or I don't know if would Odell still go for a first round pick, maybe a second or a third, maybe. If we're doing Bill O'Brien, we'll give him the whole house and 3 first round picks if we're Bill O'Brien GM. But I don't know. That'd be interesting. I don't know, man. What did you take away from this game, from at least from the Miami side?
That this defense is for real. They've been on a very hot streak lately, and some people wonder if it was sustainable. Forcing Patrick Mahomes into 3 interceptions. They got 3 sacks as well and had 7.5 tackles for a loss. So very disruptive up front. Jerome Baker, the linebacker, had 2.5 sacks by himself. So they've got some pieces on that front seven. They got Christian Wilkins, Shaq Lawson, Emmanuel Ogba, Jerome Baker at linebacker. So definitely some pieces. I think they should still add another piece or two, whether it's at linebacker or defensive line in the draft this year. But their corners are stout. They got Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, who might be the best corner duo in the league right now.
I think Xavier Howard has like 5 straight games with the interception or something like that.
Yeah, he's playing out of his mind. Which, I mean, they need those 2 guys to play well because they are paying them both a lot of money. So they need them to perform. Otherwise, it's a waste of money. And so far, they both are living up to those paychecks. They both had an interception this game, as well as Eric Rowe, who
had the one. Xavier Howard had that one-handed catch in the end zone, right?
Yes.
Just insane. I wish you had a corner like that on Washington. Oh man.
He's incredible. I wanted the Panthers to draft him in the 2nd round a couple years ago. We took James Bradbury instead, who was also really good for us. But we didn't re-sign him because Marty Hurney stinks. But yeah. He got a lot of money. And he deserves it because he's been balling. As has the rest of that defense. Tua also had a very good game. 316 yards. He did throw an interception, but he passed for 2 touchdowns and rushed for another. So he's continuing to come along. Thrown for 300 yards without his top 2 receivers and Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. Lynn Bowden, the former Kentucky. Well, he played receiver at Kentucky, moved to quarterback for his last year because Terry Wilson was hurt, and kind of played wildcat quarterback for them for the whole season. Was drafted by the Raiders as a running back. Traded to the Dolphins and is now back at receiver, and it's paying off for him and the Dolphins. So he had 7 catches on 9 targets for 82 yards this week. So by far a career game for him as a rookie. And hopefully we'll continue to see him come along because I don't think Preston Williams is going to be back this year. Not sure what the severity is with Devontae Parker's injury, but they could be without those 2 guys for the rest of the season. So they need some guys to step up, like Lynn Bowden, Mac Hollins, Antonio Callaway, the former Browns pick from Florida.
He plays for Miami?
Yep. Oh. I think he's been on injured reserve or a suspend he hasn't played like most of the year. I can't remember if it was injury or suspension, but he came back like a week or two ago. But he had 2 targets but no catches this game. But I mean, if he can continue to step up with Lynn Bowden as well, Matt Collins is solid. Yeah, he's a guy who played for the Eagles for a couple years. He played at North Carolina with Mitch Trubisky. So they do it.
Good quarterback.
They have some talent at wide receiver. The cupboard isn't bare, but it's not exactly overflowing either. So we'll see what Tua can do with these guys going forward.
It would definitely benefit from a strong veteran wide receiver. I mean, I think that can only help them, especially. I mean, honestly, I could see Allen Robinson going to Miami. That would be a really.
I think every team who needs a wide receiver is going to be going after Allen Robinson this offseason.
He's going to get a bag.
And big bag.
So, all right. So the next game that we're going to talk about, the last game before we're going to talk about our teams here, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Las Vegas Raiders, and well, you know, this was a game. Raiders are just really sinking. I don't know. This is pretty much the most Raiders thing. They're going to even out at 8-8, which is the most Raiders thing, especially with John Gruden. Team had a lot of promise, looked really strong, but then just really it's been in a mudslide the last couple of weeks. Indianapolis Colts going to 9-4. If they can win out, they can go 12-4, win this division. They put up 44 points on the Vegas Raiders, and the Vegas Raiders are going down to 76. Notable stat lines here we have Phillip Rivers, 19 for 28, 244, and 2 tutties. But here's a nice stat line I want to tell you guys. Jonathan Taylor, beast of a game, 20 carries, 150 yards, and 2 tutties. Also, his boy, Nakeem Himes, 7 carries, 58 yards as well. Pretty good rushing attack. That's definitely going to be the key for them. Remember when we said earlier this year, or not even we, you said earlier this year, T.Y. Hilton possibly is washed. 5 catches, 86 yards, and 2 tutties. Definitely has something to say for you, Jonathan. And on the other side, we had Derek Carr, 31 for 45, 316, 2 interceptions, and 2 tutties. Josh Jacobs, 13 carries, 49 yards. Derek Carr also rushed for a touchdown. So he had 3 touchdowns on the day. Nelson Aguilar, 5 catches, 100 yards, and a tutty. Darren Waller, 7 catches, 75 yards. The talent's there on this Raiders team, but they're just, I don't know what's happening. They need they need to really make a big change to really spark some fresh growth. And I think that's at the quarterback position or maybe the head coaching position. Definitely defense hasn't been the strong suit for sure. But I need to know, how do you feel about T-Y 2 tutty game? Are you going to apologize to the man?
I'm not. You know, he needed to be called out. He was playing really bad. His own grandmother called him out. She called him after a game earlier in the year and asked him why he wasn't playing. He said, I was. She's like, it didn't look like you were out there on the field. So, I mean, he needed it. And to his credit, he's been playing really well the last 2 games. He had 2 touchdowns this week. I believe he had over 100 yards last week. Yeah, 8 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown last week. And 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown the week before that against the Titans. So 3 straight games with a touchdown, 3 straight games over 80 yards. He's finally starting to play to his talent. And I believe they're playing the Texans again this week.
So big divisional game.
They are, and he always goes off against the Texans. always, always, always. It's like Derrick Henry and the Jags.
Oh, for sure.
He's going for at least 100 yards at a touchdown again this week. So, TY, I'm rooting for you. Don't let me down.
Question for you here: do the Indianapolis Colts have enough to win the division? Do you think the Colts win the division? Yes or no?
Do they play the Titans again this year? They do not.
Mollywopped them boys last time.
They did. They don't play again though.
That's a shame. I think they're 1-1. I think they split the series.
Yeah, I'm looking now. Yeah, they just split the series. Colts won 34-17 the first meeting, and the Titans won 45-26 the second meeting. So yeah, I mean 2 blowouts in each game. So
I would love to see a third one in the playoffs.
Yeah, which is where it's going to have to happen because they won't play each other again. The Colts do have 2 more division games, though, against the Texans this week, against the struggling Steelers after that, and then the other division game is home against the Jaguars week 17.
Easy go. Jaguars coaching staff, players are already packing up and ready to go because that coaching staff is not going to be there next season. But who will want to coach that Jaguars team? Which, I mean, it's not that bad of talent. They'll have to go young.
They have so much draft capital and cap space to work with. I think any coach would love to take over that. They'll get their pick of the next best quarterbacks after Trevor Lawrence. And be able to grab weapons for him in free agency with a lot of money. So we could see Allen Robinson back to the Jaguars, maybe. They throw him a bag to play with maybe Justin Fields at quarterback.
Or maybe Gardner Minshew. Give that man another shot. We'll see this weekend, though. We'll see this weekend once he's named starter for this weekend. I think Gardner Minshew is a good quarterback. I just feel like he's defied a lot of odds. I can see him being like I don't even know what team I can see him playing for if it's not for the Jags. I mean, I can see the Washington bring him in. That just sounds like a Ron Rivera Washington thing where you're not really sold on getting a good quarterback or drafting the quarterback. You get a Gardner Minshew.
I could see Gardner Minshew in like San Fran.
Oh, actually, that would be really good, especially how the way he sells to play action. I would love to see Gardner Minshew in the college. If Gardner Minshew does well with Jay Gruden early on, and I don't know who was offensive coordinator last year. Maybe just been Doug Marrone. But yeah, Gardner Minshew will cook. I mean, Kyle Shanahan can cook with any quarterback. I mean, but Gardner Minshew has a shred of talent. He has way more talent than Nick Mullins for sure. I can see that. I think San Fran. Allen Robinson to San Fran would be interesting as well. San Fran just needs to spend the money on a talented wide receiver that can be durable for them. Their durability issues in San Fran is just at all-time low. Feel like John Bellion.
My man's. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting fit. Another team I could see is perhaps the Saints. I think he could be like a younger, more athletic Drew Brees in their eyes. I don't believe Taysom Hill is the future there, seeing as how he's already 31 years old.
I'm still not on a Taysom Hill train. Like I just don't see it.
I don't either. But yeah, I think Gardner Minshew could be the guy. I think if Jacksonville was further along in their rebuild, He could be the guy there, but the fact that they still have to rebuild so many positions over the next couple of years leads me to think they're going to go with a quarterback who's more capable of elevating the talent around him. But what were you saying? You look like you had something to say.
I can see this sounds like a John Gruden thing. Gardner Minshew to Oakland Raiders. That is the money right there. I think that is the money. Because John Gruden and Mike Mayock, their philosophy is to get people who has the passion and energy, but guys no one else want. Like, guys who've been thrown away. They're literally, the throwaway team. And I think Gardner Minshew can really push Derek Carr if they're trying to. I don't know. Does Derek Carr sign for big money?
I don't know when he did get decent money, but I don't know when his contract is up.
But Gardner Minshew I can see Gardner Minshew actually pushing Derek Carr and winning that starting job because he's electric. He's electric when he's healthy.
Well, that's what they brought. That's what they got Mariota for.
Mariota's trash.
So was Derek Carr until this year.
So I don't know.
Let's see. He signed a 5-year, $125 million deal in 2018, I believe. So I think he's in year 3 of that.
So he could have an opt-out or lesser money in these next couple of years then.
Yeah, so most of his guaranteed money is going to be paid out after this season. I think they can cut him next year for only $2.5 million in dead cap and free up almost $20 million in cap space. So pretty big savings there if they do indeed decide to make a move at the quarterback position and move on from Derek Carr. I
wouldn't mind Gardner Minshew for Washington either.
Do you like him better than Haskins?
Ooh. No, I really think Dwayne Haskins can be special. Like I'm probably the only one. Well, let's just talk about it since we kind of already segued into it. We're going the second to last game that we're going to cover before we get into our standouts in the trash run. But Washington getting a much needed victory and continue their winning streak, beating the San Francisco 49ers 23-15. All based on off the defense. 2 defensive touchdowns, which propelled this team to a victory. Alex Smith didn't return after the second quarter due to a calf strain. Even in the first half, he didn't look very good either. Notable stat lines: 11 carries, 60 yards for J.D. McKissick. 6 catches, 43 yards for Logan Thomas. Not really big things on the offensive side. But on the defensive side, Cam Curl, 7 tackles with the interception and a touchdown. Montez Sweat, 5 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. Chase Young did everything out there. 6 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss, forced fumble recovery, and a tutty. You got to love the effort that he puts on this defense. Just a madman out there. On the other side, 49ers, Nick Mullins, 25 for 45, 260, a tutty, and an interception that was returned to the house. Raheem Mostert, 14 carries, 65 yards, very good back. Jeff Wilson, 11 carries for 31 yards and a tutty. Brandon Ayuk, 10 catches, 119 yards, was feasting for sure. But yeah, the big takeaway that I have for this game from my team, our offense stinks, and it's been our what is the word I'm looking for? It has been our
Achilles heel.
There we go, Achilles heel all season long, and we had some good stretches where we've been able to play well on offense, especially that's behind Antonio Gibson, AG. But the turf toe that he suffered last week against Pittsburgh does not help us out at all. AG's he turned into being the entire offense. AGG is close to being back on the field. Antonio Gandy golden. He looked really good in practice, so hopefully he can return within a week or so for our playoff push. But the biggest thing that that concerns me is the quarterback play, and not only the quarterback play, but also the play calling. This is not the first time. This is not the second time. This is not even the third time that I have had to talk to you, Scott Turner, because me and you are not gelling right now. When AG was having explosive runs, you were looking good. You was feeding the run game, but I think your combination of run to pass ratio is just not even. You changed up the gameplay completely different once Dwayne Haskins got in there. The first series, you had a good play call mix. We didn't score a touchdown, which we should have got down to the red zone, but wound up kicking a field goal. That was a good play calling segment. But after that, you just seem to not know what you wanted to do with Dwayne Haskins. It was very non-committal on either side of the ball. I think you were trying to be too cautious, which led to our offense not looking good. Mind you, Dwayne Haskins did have a couple errant throws, but that's because he definitely struggles once he goes through his reads, especially when his progressions goes past his first or second read. But I think one thing that Dwayne Haskins thrives in, going back to his college days back at Ohio State, up-tempo offense, spread, quick options. These plays that develop longer don't do him well right now in his development. And if you want to see Dwayne Haskins develop, you really go hard on his play call, on his strength. And then you have to take more shots down the field as well. Once you build that confidence up, you have to build his confidence as throwing the ball. And that's when you see a huge difference when he plays. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Scott Turner and his play calling. He's still new at this, so I'm trying to give him a pass, but it's really hard for me to do that. But he's also part of the blame. So hopefully they're optimistic that Alex Smith plays, which he does, add that veteran presence to the offense, but it's still not explosive, and the offense is not jumping the way it should be with some talent that we have, or the offense that we're supposed to run.
Yeah, I don't think your offense is that talented, to be honest. Like, especially with Antonio Gibson out.
Oh yeah, we definitely lack a lot of explosiveness, and I think he really opens up a lot of different things. Because because J.D. McKissick is a good receiving back and has been a very primary target, and as Logan Thomas is emerging as a tight end in the league. But AG, he really is kind of the glue for the offense that can add mismatches. We do lack talent for sure on the offensive side of the ball, but I think with scheme and some of the scheme options that we ran with two tight end sets, two running back sets, it kind of helped a lot, especially get the ball down the field where you can really just swing it to the running back in the flat a lot. Yeah, we don't have the personnel for sure, and it doesn't help when we constantly get injuries to our prize position group, which is the running backs.
Yeah, I think getting Antonio Gibson will be back, AG, as well as AGG, because Antonio Gandy Golden will give you guys something you don't have, which is a big outside threat. And he's also
is slowly trying to be there. He's been showing up a little bit. He's not as consistent as we need him to free up Terry.
Doesn't he usually play in the slot?
No, he's outside. He can play really anywhere, but I mean, because Cam Sims is 6'5".
I feel like he usually plays in the slot, though. I could be wrong.
I mean, he lines up a little bit everywhere. He plays inside and outside. Because I mean, a lot of times they will bring like the running back out to the far outside position when they motion him out.
True. You guys have Robert Foster?
Yeah, I think we just recently signed him.
He had some big games a couple years ago with the Bills. I don't know why they cut him, to be honest.
Yeah, 4.4 speed guy.
Yeah, big play guy. As a rookie with the Bills in 2018, he had 27 catches for 540 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaged 20 yards per catch. And then last year, he only had 3 catches for 64 yards. So a big drop-off, and I'm not really sure why. But then it looks like this was his first game of the season. And he didn't have a catch, but he did have 2 targets. So he's a guy that could add another wrinkle to your offense. Somebody with speed to burn. I think he's like 6'2" or 6'3". So he's got some size as well. So he could be a guy that you guys lean on more down the road as well. Because, yeah, most of your receivers ain't it. You got Terry, and of course Terry is Terry, and he's going to do Terry things.
Got over 1,000 yards receiving this week, which is great.
Yes, he did. I told you he was going to feast this year with Kyle Allen as his quarterback, as DJ Moore did last year. I told you that back in the summer when we did our previews for the seasons, and you didn't believe me.
Well, you're kind of wrong. He feasted, but not with Kyle Allen.
He was feasting with Kyle Allen.
Yeah, the 2 games he played.
Either way, I told you Kyle Allen was going to be your starter, did I not?
Yeah, he started the game.
And he would be starting the rest of your games if he was healthy, because Ron Rivera loves him some Kyle Allen. But yeah, I think you guys need a little bit more help in that department. Maybe another receiving tight end as well. While Logan Thomas is a good story and he's been serviceable, he is 29 years old. And it's tough to have a breakout season and then follow that up and continue that type of play at an age this old. This could be his like Gary Barnidge season, who had a Pro Bowl season with the Browns at like 30 randomly, like 8 years into his career, and then did nothing after that. So you guys could use like a Kyle Pitts, maybe.
I would love nothing more to draft Kyle Pitts in this upcoming draft.
Well, you guys lose a couple more games, you might be in a position to do so. You guys win a couple more games, I don't think you're going to be able to get him.
No.
So we'll see what happens there, but
him or Tooney?
Yeah. Who?
Tooney, right? This is his last name. The wide receiver from Florida.
Oh, Tony. Kadarius Toney.
I don't know. I think it was Tooney. I think it was 2 O's, not 1.
No, it's 1 O. He's good.
He is good. Florida got some weapons.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm not sold on Kyle Trask. Like, he's been good this year, yes, I'll give him that. But has it all been him, or has he been elevated by his weapons? Or is he the one elevating the weapons? Maybe he just is that good.
We'll see.
We'll find out.
Speaking of find out, Drew Lock might be the future for the Denver Broncos, which can be great for what is his name? What is the GM name for
John Elway?
John Elway finally getting a quarterback that actually is good. I guess they had Peyton Manning, but he was washed. But yeah, Drew Lock just shredded your Carolina Panthers up this past game, throwing for 4 tutties. Big game for him. Teddy Bridgewater might be done after 1 season. Jameis Winston to Carolina Panthers. PJ Walker? I don't know. Notable stat lines: 21 for 27, 280 yards, 4 tutties for Drew Lock. Melvin Gordon, 13 carries, 68 yards. Philip Lindsay, 11 carries, 24 yards. KJ Hamler, 2 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Every time he caught the ball, he was in the end zone. Tony Fumagalli. There you go. 4 catches, 53 yards. Jerry Jeudy, 2 catches, 42 yards. Passed the ball around very well. Panthers, on the other hand, Teddy Bridgewater, 30 for 40, 283 yards. No tutties, no interceptions. Mike Davis, 11 carries, 51 yards, 2 tutties. Not bad. Teddy Bridgewater rushed for a touchdown. 3 carries, 31 yards he had. Curtis Samuel also got in there with 2 carries, 22 yards. Robbie Anderson had a pretty good game, 8 catches for 84 yards. And Curtis Samuel, 7 catches for 68 yards. Definitely missed the presence of DJ Moore this game. What is your takeaways from this game? Also, another good game from Jeremy Chin, the runner-up for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Not the runner-up. He is the leader in the clubhouse because he is the Rookie of the Year. 8 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit, and a forced fumble as well. Let's see. Teddy Bridgewater. Yes, he completed 75% of his passes, but especially with the 4th down at the end of the game, you could see the problem with Teddy, and that is that he chooses the higher percentage throw most of the time, even when he needs to be aggressive, as he chose to throw to Curtis Samuel short of the sticks, when he had Pharaoh Cooper and Robbie Anderson coming open on routes down the field that he kind of bailed on and just chose to check down, which is kind of a microcosm of his Panthers tenure. He's been captain checkdown so far. He's done a lot of underneath throws, slants, getting the ball out to the running backs in the flat, quick outs, just not throwing the deep balls like offenses need to be successful. And I don't hate Teddy, but this was my problem with him. Yes, he's good enough to win you games. I mean, he threw for 280 yards and completed 75% of his passes this week. That's good. He didn't throw an interception. That's also good. He didn't throw a touchdown. That's bad. He only averaged 7 yards per pass. That's bad. He's a decent quarterback, but he's not a guy who's going to elevate the players around him. And that's the kind of quarterback the Panthers need going forward to be successful.
Gardner Minshew.
I don't know if he's that either, but he's cheap, so I wouldn't mind. Teddy Bridgewater for Gardner Minshew.
He'll definitely push the ball down the field, that's for sure. He has a little gunslinger in him. I think that's what you need.
We might just need Jameis. Jameis going to sling the ball down the field.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, somebody's going to come down with it. It might not be his receiver, but somebody will.
Plus, that'd be a good opportunity for him to play the Saints twice a year and the Buccaneers twice a year.
Yep.
Double revenges. Quadruple the fun.
Yeah. I don't know how much we would win, but our offense would be insanely fun. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, if he's brought back. He probably won't be because Marty Herney stinks. But, those two guys getting the run down the field and catch passes from Jameis Winston, that would be a sight to behold.
How would you feel about Jacoby? Jacoby does have a little bit of that Teddy in him too. Check down.
Yeah.
He doesn't push it enough, for sure.
Some of that, I don't know if it's because of the weapons he had. Like maybe he's a guy who would throw it down the field more if he felt confident in them. T.Y. Hilton had a couple big games last year with Jacoby. And actually, Jacoby struggled more after T.Y. Hilton got hurt. And that's kind of when he went to captain check down. Because he didn't really have any outside weapons. He mostly had the tight ends, Jack Doyle. Was Eric Ebron there last year?
Yes. Stinks.
Yeah.
Doing the same things. Dropping passes.
Correct. But he's very good at getting open. You got to give him that.
Yeah, I mean, he does get high touchdown rates, but that's the thing is like if you know he has a high drop rate at the same time, it's kind of like we'll take our chances.
It's a 50-50 chance, yep.
All right.
But yeah, Drew Lock is the future of the Denver Broncos. I said it. I don't know if that future is good or bad, but he's it.
With Courtland Sutton coming back next year, that offense can be pretty scary.
It sure could be.
You got to figure out what they're going to do at the running back position. Question for you. Next year, with a healthy set of Courtland Sutton and the weapons they have currently right now, and possibly a new head coach, I mean, with these wins, I think this is probably going to save Vic Fangio's job for another year, possibly. Do you think that the Denver Broncos make the playoffs next year? Yes or no?
I'm going to say no. I believe in their division, they could be the second best team next year, but the Raiders aren't bad, and the Chargers are clearly on the rise. And then the AFC North, you have Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, Cincinnati, who could also be a team on the rise, all fighting for playoff spots, as well as the AFC South. If the Texans bounce back like we assume they will next year, after Deshaun gets a new coach, and the Titans and Colts can continue playing the way they are this year, there's a lot of good teams in the AFC, and I don't know that I'm ready to put the Broncos ahead of any of them. Even with Courtland Sutton coming back, without that defense taking a big step as well. So we'll see. Von Miller might be back by the end of the season. I kind of doubt it.
There's no need to come back.
But if when he gets healthy, do they bring him back next year, or do they move on from him and try to free up cap space? We'll see. That will be a story to watch, and obviously having him back would be a big help for them. But having money to spend on other positions could help them as well, because their linebackers could be upgraded on. Corners, not the best.
Offensive line.
Their offensive line is not the greatest, but it hasn't been bad. It's been better this year than last, but still not amazing. Safeties, I think their strong safeties, Kareem Jackson, it was like 33 or 34. He's getting up there in age. And Justin Simmons, who I don't know if they franchise tagged him this year or not, but he's probably going to get franchise tagged next year. If he's not, he's a free agent and he's going to command a sizable amount of money. Will they have enough to keep him? Who knows? Perhaps that's where a potential Von Miller trade or cut comes in, free up money for Justin Simmons. But we'll see. because of the unknowns surrounding that offense. As you said, what they're going to do at running back, the offensive line, is it going to be better? Wide receiver, and the questions I have for the defense as a whole, I'm going to say they won't make the playoffs next year.
Okay. All right. Now time for the famous segment that we have here on Hate to Pylon. Are you ready?
I don't think so.
Oh, I love trash.
Trash.
In life, you have to take the trash out. If you have trash in your life, take it out. Throw it away. Get rid of it. Major key.
Get shit on! Your ass! Your ass!
I love it because it's trash. Yes, I love trash.
This is the worst.
And boy, oh boy, do we love trash around here. And oh man, trash run. This is gonna be a little interesting trash run this week. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first with the teams who are going to go into the trash run? Or people who go first?
I'll let you go first.
You want to go first? Okay, sounds good to me. Okay. 1 second. I forgot my pick.
I can go first then.
You ready? Yeah, you go ahead.
I'm going to go with the Houston Texans defense.
Oh.
How do you let Mitch Trubisky carve you up to the tune of 24 of 33 passing for 267 yards and 3 tutties? How? This is Mitch Trubisky we're talking about. He stinks. Allen Robinson was a large part of that. 9 catches on 13 targets for 123 yards and a touchdown. But as we've seen in Jacksonville, he is capable of elevating completely trash quarterbacks. And he did it again, somehow, making Mitch Trubisky look like a competent NFL quarterback, which he's not. Which is why I would like to put the Houston Texans defense in the trash. See ya. Bye-bye, Texans defense.
See ya later. All right. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to put the Pittsburgh Steelers offense in the trash run this week. And they really could have been in the trash run last week. Their offense was pretty explosive early on in the season. The one thing they've been lacking is a running game to be a more balanced team, especially making a playoff push. Ben Roethlisberger definitely has some deficiencies. He shouldn't be throwing the ball 50-plus times, especially coming off of Tommy John surgery for a quarterback in NFL. Tommy John surgery. Normally you hear that name associated with baseball pitchers, but it's just he shouldn't be doing that. And I think it's starting to show late, as the season's wearing down, and now this offense is not looking explosive or good. Also, the amount of drops that this team has produced has been insane. If they could cut down on their drops, they definitely would possibly could still be undefeated right now. Who knows? They've been able to conquer a lot, but these last 2 weeks they haven't. And they've been avoiding it all year. They've been a decent team all year. But finally this week, the Pittsburgh Steelers have made it and you guys are going into the trash this week. Goodbye. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Is there anybody else you have?
Not really. The whole Jets team losing.
There.
Yeah. I don't know if we can put them in the trash. That's, as you said, they just kind of live there. They are Oscar the Grouch. They're even both green. They just live in the trash.
Oh, actually, I do have another offering, and it's going back to a whole offense. But I'm going to put the New England Patriots offense in the trash. Cam Newton made it into the trash early before. I think it's kind of it's just like a whole organizational thing going for the New England Patriots because they looked good. They show flashes of being able to figure out something to mirage this offense to be something decent or comparable to an NFL offense, but they failed too many times constantly. Josh McDaniels is supposed to be this great, offensive play caller, and
he stinks.
And so for that being said, it also brings me great pleasure of putting the New England Patriots in the trash run. So I think a lot of people will enjoy me when I go ahead and throw these guys into the trash run this week.
You're just a Cam Newton hater.
Listen, we like Cam Newton on the show, but I just don't like Cam Newton on this Patriots offense or this Patriots team.
Figure this offense does stink. I think that's all I have.
All right. With that being said, well, let's just go from the trash to the standouts. Let's go to our pylon standouts, and I have a couple names I want to do. We're going to do two each, but I have an honorable mention. Well, I have four technically, but they're both like I'm gonna lump them together. So I'm cheating, of course.
All right. Let's see. My first pylon standout is your boy Drew Lock. As I said, 21 of 27 for 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. The kid had it cooking on Sunday against the Panthers. Now, is that because the Panthers' defense stinks? Probably. But could it be because he's talented? Yes, it could. And as we said, he'll get Cortland Sutton back next year. This could be a case of a quarterback hitting his stride at the right time. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, and I predicted that they won't next year either, but they do have the talent to prove me wrong. And they just might if Drew Lock continues to play the way he did this Sunday. So he's one of my pylon standouts. CJ, who do you have?
Before I go to, I do like his swagger, and I think another person who really likes his swagger is Shia. But yeah, Drew Lock is definitely good. I like the swagger. I like the way he plays. I'm going to start off with the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going running backs. These two running backs, I could have chose two, but I think they both deserve a shout out and a round of applause. Derrick Henry, doing Derrick Henry things against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, if he could play against the Jacksonville Jaguars every game of the season, he would definitely end with 5,000 rushing yards, maybe more. 26 carries, 215 yards, and 2 tutties. Insane. I mean, also, you have to put on top of that, Derrick Henry in December is probably one of the best running backs in the NFL history. He just gets hot around this time, just unstoppable. Also, a big performance. Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts, 20 carries, 150 yards, and 2 tutties as well. These two running backs played really well for their team. Definitely much needed because both of these teams need a good running game to help alongside the quarterbacks. I have more faith in Ryan Tannehill than I do Phillip Rivers at this stage of his career. But definitely strong running back play, and you love to see it from a position that's quote-unquote dying. But these two guys are my standouts. So we're going to give them a round of applause. All right, Jonathan, you got your second offering?
Yeah. I'm going to go defense this time. I'm going to go with Hassan Reddick after his 5-sack performance against the Giants. Dude was in his bag.
He literally doubled his season stats. Now he has 10 sacks on the season.
Yeah. I think he only had 4.5 sacks before this season. So basically a third of his career sacks in one game, which is impressive when you have 15 career sacks.
Yeah.
So big game from him. He's a guy who was a pass rusher at Temple. And people thought he was too small to play in the NFL. So the Cardinals tried him out as a traditional linebacker. And he kind of struggled there for the first couple of years of his career. They moved him back out to the edge this year at his normal position. And he is killing it.
Yeah. Just imagine what this defense would be if Chandler Jones didn't get hurt for the season. And they just have a lot of misfit pieces on that defense. And I don't say misfit in a bad way, but more so guys who are very flexible and versatile. If they can just get each guy, such as Isaiah Simmons and Reddick, in the right positions to rush the passer and do things. I mean, this defense could be special. Alongside that, could be special defense. But Reddick, we will give you your round of applause. All right. Also, I will go on the defensive side of the ball, and I was going to have Hassan Reddick as my second pick, so you kind of took that away from me, which is perfect. Because that way I can give more praise to my Washington football defense, who's definitely one of the most feared defenses in the league currently right now. The way that front seven pressures on the quarterback, really the front four, how they get after the quarterback. And this is, mind you, down Matt Ioannidis, who is arguably possibly one of the best. I would say he's definitely one of the better defensive linemen we had. It was a Pro Bowler last year. Really slept on, which is good. I think him getting hurt this year, possibly we can re-sign him for cheap to kind of keep our depth at defensive line, which I like. And then also I think Ryan Anderson was out this week as well.
He stinks.
So he's been a good addition. I want Matt Ioannidis to come back next year for us for sure. But our front seven's just been able to get so much pressure on the quarterback, and that's starting with Chase Young, and that's starting with Montez Sweat, two stud pass rushers. Montez Sweat, insane speed coming off the edge, has been wreaking havoc. Chase Young has been getting double teamed, triple teamed, and now he's starting to come alive with the crazy performance he had this past week with the forced fumble recovery, a touchdown, and a sack. Just being just a nuisance. Just a straight nuisance on this defense. Secondary played well for the most part. Cameron Curl got a pick 6, read Nick Mullins' eyes for the easy interception. Definitely want to see our secondary continue to play. Hope we get healthier, maybe get a couple pieces back. But for this week, you guys played well and got the job done. On to Seattle, as they say, and you get your round of applause, my friend. But yeah, that does it for our standouts for this week. And our trash run, we do those pretty much every Tuesday. We shout out who's the best, and we definitely shout out who has been the worst. And we take him out because we don't want him in here this week.
Get out of here.
Also, before we wrap it up, we're gonna do our Thursday night picks. There's some Saturday night football we got this week as well, which is which should be pretty interesting. We got 2 Saturday games, a 4:30 game and an 8:15 game. They might be interesting. Denver versus Buffalo could be an interesting game, and you got Carolina versus Green Bay. We'll see. Probably gonna get slaughtered, to be honest with you. Not a lot of interesting matchups. The biggest matchup I can see right now will probably be the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the New Orleans Saints. New England Miami's always should be a good game, a divisional game. Washington Seattle should be good as well, but not a lot of standout games for this week. But the Thursday game that we do have on, actually maybe Cleveland and the Giants should be an interesting game. Both teams have got playoff implications. This game could actually be good. It's a divisional game on Thursday night. We have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers coming off a victory, and the Raiders coming off a couple losses. Should be interesting. What are you watching for, and who do you got in this game?
I am watching for Justin Herbert. He's been cooking this year. He's got 3,400 yards, so he's 600 yards away from 4,000 for the season, which would be very impressive. He probably won't get there in Thursday night's game, but I would expect him to by next week. Keenan Allen is also 25 yards away from 1,000 yards receiving. He's also another stud. At running back, Austin Eckler is back. So I'd like to see him kind of get back to his production from last year. As he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been the stud he was last year since he came back from his injury this year. In the 3 games since he came back, he has 44 yards, 36 yards, and 79 yards rushing. He has contributed, 170 yards receiving in that time. So he's averaging more receiving yards than rushing yards. I need him to get those rushing numbers up so Justin Herbert can be great, because I'm a big Justin Herbert fan. I'm going to take the Chargers by 3, 23-20.
Okay. Thing that I'm watching for is I need this rushing attack for the Las Vegas Raiders to show up. Josh Jacobs, Carlos Booker. Is it Carlos Booker? Devontae Booker. I need that running game to show up for this team. And I think that's what makes this Raiders team dangerous. I don't want the game to be in the hands of Derek Carr. With that being said, I'm going to give this game actually to the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to find a way to snap their losing streak. I think this game is in Las Vegas. So they're back-to-back home games for them. Yeah, I think the Raiders win this game. Raiders beat the Chargers last time they played in November, 31-26. So pretty decent scoring game. I don't think it's going to be quite that. It might be around that. I think it's going to be 24-20. The Raiders win with a good rushing attack, finally unleashing Josh Jacobs and giving him the carries and touches he needs. And I think the Raiders win this game.
All right, I don't hate it.
Yeah, but I think one thing that you do hate is that this episode is over and we are done for this. Well, not for this week, but for tonight. Thank you guys all for watching. It's been a good episode, a good week of football. This weekend it should be interesting games as well, but I think this weekend we'll definitely focus a lot more on college football because there's going to be this is championship week, and we're going to see who's going to make into the college football playoff and the bowl series. Shout out to Coastal Carolina this past weekend for pulling off a last minute comeback to beat Troy, which I was kind of shook. I thought they were going to lose this game, and McCall drove that team down the field and scored on the final possession, and they did what they had to do. So Coastal has a big game against Louisiana this week for the Sun Belt Championship, which should solidify them a New Year's Day bowl, possibly something fun that continue their streak to become a national champions if they finish the season undefeated. We'll see. But yeah, any final comments, thoughts you got for this episode, Jonathan?
No, I'm excited for this Saturday slate. We get.
Are you nervous?
Championship games? A little bit.
Notre Dame, Clemson 2.
I think if Clemson wins, we're probably going to get Notre Dame, Clemson 3 in the college football playoff semifinal. So this will be a good little matchup, and that would be in the future as well. But I do want to shout out Perplexios for hitting us with some questions and interacting with us on Twitch. So shout out to him. Feel free to come back and do it again on Thursday or anybody else. As you can see, we do answer questions if we see them. So feel free to ask away.
Ask away. Tell your friends and let them ask questions. We'll answer them all. But yeah, that's all we have for you guys tonight. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for participating. Shout out to Perplexios. Yeah, that's just been the episode. We will catch you guys on Thursday for our Pylon picks, for the rest of our Pylon picks for the week, for Saturday and Sunday's games. And you want to pick some college football games as well?
Yeah, we can do that on Thursday.
Cool. Well, we catch you guys on Thursday. Have a great night, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, and see you on Thursday.